Welcome to the SMB Community Podcast with hosts Amy Babinchak, James Kernan, and Carl Polachek. Produced by Kernan Consulting and for the international MSP community. We are dedicated to making every IT professional a successful IT professional. Hey everybody, welcome back to the SMB Community Podcast. This is James Kernan with Kernan Consulting, and I'm back with my good friend Amy Babinchak. Hey Amy, good morning.
Good morning, James. Good morning.
Yeah, so how are things up in Michigan?
Things up in Michigan are hot, but yeah. Other than that, it's doing great. You know, it's still summertime. We're still doing our summertime pattern of going out to the boat on weekends, so it's nice.
Yep. We're in about the same pattern. It's hot. I think it's supposed to be 101 today with a heat index close to 110. So that makes it tough to coach football.
Oh my God!
And we got practice tonight. I'm a little worried about that. Lots of water, I guess. So.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah, it's going to be. I feel bad for your little guys.
Yeah. Well, hey, we got a lot to talk about today, so let's just kind of dive into it. We've got an interesting question of the week, and the question that actually came in was, can you share some examples of some big wins when you had your MSP? So it's interesting. I mean, you came out of this fresher than I did, so I'll let you go first, but share some examples of big wins or strategic wins for your company.
Yeah, so, we never had a great, big, huge jump in revenue from landing, that one amazing client. We never had that type of big win.
Yeah.
What this reminded me of is when I first started my business, I just hired my first employee. And at that point in time, you're scrambling for money, and because you just made 100% jump, that first step's a doozy. Right. And so I get a call. And this, I guess, is why it's good to answer your phone and don't say no to things. Try them out and see what happens. I got a call from a company that said, hey, we're in California. We have this rack of systems in Michigan. We need some hard drives swapped out. All you have to do is show up, swap out the hard drives, call us up. We'll make sure it's good. And then if they're working good, you're done. If they're not, we'll swap back in the old ones. We ship back the old drives. That's it. That's the whole job. We're going to pay you $50 a hard drive. And there's going to be, at least 4. So it's a $200 stop. So I'm like, okay, I'll go do that. And so, plus it's brain dead simple, right? And no, I'm not going to be there very long for $200. So I'll go and do that.
Yep.
That led to doing more and more of those jobs, and turned out that it was a gig for Comcast, and I didn't know it. So Comcast was actually shipping me advertising their commercials, right, for the local market, and so they needed to have them streaming locally is how they were doing it, and they had these racks of servers stashed in the backs of other businesses. People were renting out space. It was kind of a weird thing. It'd be like in the back of a printer shop, in the back of a small manufacturing shop, in the whatever, there'd be this rack. Then I started, then they were like, oh, we need you to swap out this server. And the server itself was huge. And it was basically it held like 24 hard drives. It was quite huge at the time. And this is what I was like, we need you to swap out the whole thing. And, they told me what they were going to pay for that. And I'm like, okay, I'll go do that. Well, when it got there, I saw that on the label, it was by a company called Equus in California.
Wow.
And unbeknownst to me, Equus is who made all of Netflix's equipment. They custom built these things and shipped them out. So now I was doing some work for Equus. I got to know Equus, and I'm like, wow, if Netflix trusts them to build their networking environment, maybe I should too. And that turned into a 15-year business relationship where I didn't continue in the drive swapping business as we grew. We stopped doing that. But I developed that relationship with Equus, and it became a really close one. We did some events to promote my business with, since I started using their servers. We invited them to things. They came, they helped promote us. It really turned into a good business relationship. So although it started off as a $200 deal, I consider that to be a big win because we developed a great business relationship out of it.
Yep. Oh, that's exciting. I love it. And the cool thing, Amy, that you said is it started with you picking up the phone.
Yeah.
It was a call,
and not saying no, right? Like it's a little out of the ordinary, but it's a quick $200 at the moment when I need a quick $200, and it grew.
Yeah, I have a similar story that was a project that ended up coming in, became a recurring project. But, I'm a small MSP in San Diego, Networks Plus, and it was my first sales rep that I hired. His name was Will. He answered the phone. A call came in and said, hey, we want to interview you. We're looking for a certified small business there to do some government work. We need to put some engineers on site, and you need to be a Dell partner. And he's like, okay, well, let me get the owner on the phone, and, you could interview him. So he took a message, and he must have come over to my desk 3 times that morning. Hey, have you called him back yet? Have you called him back yet? Have you called him back yet? And I'm like, oh, I'll call him this afternoon. I'll get to it when I get to it. Well, ended up calling, interviewed. We had a couple quick interviews, and I didn't really think a whole lot of it, but they said they needed a couple full-time techs on site. Well, a month, maybe 5 weeks go by. I haven't heard anything from them. And then a Thursday night, I get a phone call, and it said, hey, and it was like 5:30, 6 o'clock at night. They said, hey, Monday morning, we need 4 full-time engineers that have this skill set down at a military base, at 6 o'clock in the morning on a Monday. I'm like, oh, great. I have one work to find 4 full-time people,
Jeez.
who get up early. Yeah. It's like, well, we did. We found 4 really good people and got them plugged in. And that 4 people, grew to 10 people, to 20 people. And we started plugging people in, and that contract grew to us having hundreds of engineers on site for this contract in 22 states. So it really was a lucrative deal for us, and it was another form of monthly recurring revenue. It was really just, engineers as a service, or really staffing. So we did project work, and that was we did that for about 3 years, and that really helped catapult my growth. And then there was a fun one that came in. It's kind of an interesting one, but how many of you get something in the mail, good old fashioned mail? It's a big RFP that got mailed to my office. I looked at it. It was a big project, and it was the San Diego Padres new ballpark that was going into downtown San Diego. So it was an RFP, it was a big project. They wanted a bunch of cabling and network infrastructure. And I was like, well, we're too small to do all of this, but why don't I subcontract someone? And so I went to the biggest cabling shop in San Diego, and we subcontracted with them, and we did all the network infrastructure. Our proposal had them doing all the cabling, and we went through several interviews and we won that contract. So when we won that contract, I had 8 employees. It was really funny, 8 employees. And we kind of went from a nobody to a somebody, because all the network infrastructure was all Cisco. It was about a $1.5 million deal. And then all the cabling was done by this contractor, and we made a little override on that. But that was a big deal for us. And, great marketing. But again, that was, how many of you bid on an RFP that comes in the mail? Most people would just throw that in the garbage. And you never know until you kind of think outside the box. So those were a couple fun examples that we wanted to share with everybody. Put your thinking cap on and think of a way to, put something in place, because you never know what these can turn into. All of these for both Amy and I were great deals.
I've always been a person who wanted to take advantage of an opportunity, right?
Mm-hmm.
Even if you don't exactly know what it's going to be, start, get into it, try it out. It might turn into something, it might not. If you don't like it, you can always change your mind later. But I hear a lot of the opposite advice out there.
Yes.
People are saying, "Oh, just say no, focus on what you do. Don't get distracted. Don't." And I'm like, I think you're missing out on things. You're missing out on, opportunities for explosive growth like you had, or opportunities to build relationships like I had. So taking risks is part of business.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
how businesses grow.
Exactly. Exactly. So that's a great point. I love how you worded that, Amy, because you're exactly right. Most advice out there is don't bid on RFPs, you know, these blind interviews that come in that sound too good to be true normally are too good to be true. And if it's outside your wheelhouse and you don't think you're big enough to do something, or you don't think that you have the skill set internally, why not subcontract? Why not expand your team and think outside the box of how you can deliver a solution like that and make the most of it. So I love that.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, great question. Thanks for sending that in. If anybody has any other questions like that or wants to learn more, just email us at james@kernanconsulting.com. We'd love to hear from you or answer your question of the week right here live on the program. I've got a marketing extraordinaire guru who all of you are going to love to hear from today, but I'm here with Tim Fitzpatrick of Rialto Marketing. Hey, Tim, welcome.
James, thanks for having me. I'm super excited to be here.
Yeah, cool. Thanks. Hey, so we've had a good chat. I love what you guys are doing. And really, I think where we're going to end up, and kind of the theme of today's session is, what can MSPs do marketing wise to get more bang for the buck? We're going to talk about that. Before I dive into those questions, though, give everybody a little background, a little history on who Tim Fitzpatrick is.
Sure, I'll try and give you the Cliff Note version of my professional career. So when I graduated from college, I was a math major. I had no idea what the heck I wanted to do. My dad had been an entrepreneur for a long time, and one of the businesses he had was a wholesale distribution company, and he had no employees at the time. And I said, "Hey, I know you need help. Let me help you for the summer while I figure out what the heck I want to do." And James, 3 months in, I was like, I don't want to do anything else. I love this. And fortunately, he let me stay on. So I ended up running the distribution company. I learned more doing that in 6 months than I did in 4 years of college.
Wow.
We grew 60% a year on average for 9 years. And then we sold the business, stayed on for another 3 years. And then after that, I actually got laid off. So the company that bought us was a public company. This was in the 2008, 2009 timeframe. And we all know what happened there. They started freaking out. I got laid off. From there, I transitioned into residential real estate. I'd always been interested in it.
Okay.
I started door knocking on people that were in foreclosure and started doing short sale business. But, 2.5, 3 years in, I was waking up every day, James, like, oh my God, I have to do this all over again. This sucks. I didn't like it. It wasn't a good fit for me. And what's the point now in a business if you're in that position? And so I took some time, I shifted gears, and that's what I got into marketing, which is what I'm doing today.
Reach out to Tim. Make sure you follow him on social media. The more marketing you do, the more successful you will be. So make sure you pay attention to what Tim is doing out there on social media and reach out. But hey, Tim, thanks for being on the program today. It's been great to have you share some words of wisdom and great to connect with you. So I want to also talk about Windows 10 end of life. So we know that's coming up quickly. So October of 2025, we've got Windows 10 end of life. And typically what that means is Microsoft's going to stop supporting that. They'll stop doing the security patches and the updates, making any workstation that's using Windows 10 vulnerable. They, like last time, they probably will have a paid service that they'll charge extra money to give you those patches if you need them. But I remember last time that was a big mess and wasn't worth it. So I think the name of the game really is to start educating your customers now. Make sure that you're getting ahead of the curve, because it takes time to migrate from Windows 10 to 11 or just replace the equipment. It should be a little simpler this go around. But any thoughts that you have on that, Amy?
My thought might sound a little snarky, but you really shouldn't have Windows 10 at this point. But Windows 11, we're in our fourth year.
Mhm.
Uh, you get those Windows 10 machines are old. And there was no reason to be afraid of 11. Having your clients be stagnant on an operating system, it's not good for their business. It's not good for your business. A lot of times people they consider moving up an operating system risky. But these days, the move from 10 to 11 was a zero cost item, and it was just allowing the update to come down. And it's so simple, the simplest it's ever been. So the old thought that, you have to wait for 2 years before you install the thing, before it becomes stable. That's an old way of thinking. The updates are coming down continuously now in more of a streaming fashion. They're much less problematic than they used to be. The code changes, for the most part, are not disrupting applications, because especially in 10 and 11, applications are more isolated from the OS than they used to be. So it's a lot less likely that there's going to be any kind of disruption. So if you're still in the mode of thinking about waiting until, the bugs are worked out, gosh, the bugs are never going to be worked out, because the attackers are they're so well funded, they're so fast, they're so good at what they do. If you're not keeping up, you're really putting yourself in more vulnerable situation. It is always true that the latest OS is more secure than the one that came before it. And the opportunity to patch these OSs is shorter than it used to be as well, because of the rates that these things get attacked and how good the attackers are. They're looking for that code that you can't patch it. You can't fix that hole. You can't change it, because the development process at that time, it didn't exist to be able to write it in a way that, makes it less vulnerable. And so it's more important than ever to stay up. So, at this point, cycle out those Windows 10s. The hardware is old. The OS is old. Move on to 11. Microsoft apparently isn't going to change the name to 12, but if you follow along in the updates, this year this fall is when 12 would be, and there is a big Windows 11 update coming, which we probably would have been called 12 if not for their decision on what to do with marketing.
Yep. All right. There you go. You heard it straight from Amy. I agree with you. So good point. Good point. And it did not come across snarky, by the way.
Okay.
I like that word.
It was just kind of, direct.
Correct. Well, you know what? In today's cybersecurity climate, we need to be more direct, right, with our clients. So I agree with you.
Yeah.
And so hey, I think you are kind of off for the summer. You're busy boating, but there's some events coming up that I wanted to highlight real quick. I'm going to be speaking at an M&A workshop in Denver, September 25th. So that's coming up for anybody out here in the Midwest. And then we've got our Mastermind Live Roadshow, September 26th and 27th in Denver as well. So that's the next event that I'll be speaking at. Looking forward to that. Have you got anything coming up here, September, October?
I do. By the time this publishes, it's probably too late to get our listeners there, but you may be able to catch some of the recordings. I'm speaking 9th to 11th at an IT Live event designed by IT Live in Orlando. Also an M&A event. So they do it in a really interesting way. They do not, it's kind of rare. They don't have vendors there hawking stuff and all of that. So it's a true learning experience. So it would be my first time at this one. I'm really looking forward to seeing what it's like, but the content looks fantastic.
Fun. How fun. And then I'm not sure if you're making it out to SMB Tech Fest, but it's another SMB Tech Fest coming up October 17th and 18th. I'll be speaking at that as well on M&A. So
All right.
M&A is a hot topic.
Yeah, it always is. I know.
Yeah, awesome. All right. Well, I think that's a wrap for us today. Thanks, everybody, for tuning in. Until next time, take care and go get them.